Listen to me. There comes a moment in your life when you look at your bank balance, and it hurts. Not because you're broke, but because deep down, you know you were capable of better. You know you worked hard, yet nothing stayed. You earned, but you never kept. You bought things you don't remember, to impress people who don't care, and now you're left asking yourself, where did it all go? Today, that cycle ends. Because today, we don't just talk about money, we talk about your discipline, your mindset, your future, your freedom. My friend, hear this clearly. Overspending is not a money problem. It is a mindset problem. It comes from stress, from comparison, from loneliness, from the need to feel something, even for a moment. But every time you buy to escape your emotions, you are selling your future for temporary comfort. Saving money is not about living a small life. Saving money is about building a life so big that you never have to fear the future again. You must stop looking at purchases as rewards and start seeing discipline as the real reward. The moment you control your spending, you gain something more valuable than money. You gain power. Power over your impulses, power over your future, power over your destiny. Understand this. Many people fail financially not because they don't earn enough, but because they never learned how to hold what they earn. Your income doesn't determine your wealth. Your habits do. Every time you say no to an unnecessary expense, you are saying yes to a stronger, safer, richer version of yourself. Every dollar you save becomes a soldier for your future. Every purchase you avoid becomes a silent victory. Every small step becomes a transformation. And if you truly want to change your life, you must treat saving money as a mission of discipline, purpose, and faith. One day, the money you save will turn into the opportunities you prayed for. One day, those small sacrifices will become the freedom you dream of. And one day, you will thank yourself for choosing control over impulses. So don't wait. Start today. Start with one choice. Start with one moment of discipline, because your future self is watching and begging you to begin. And if you're ready to grow, ready to elevate, ready to transform your mindset and your future, hit that subscribe button and join a community built on discipline, growth, and greatness. Your new life begins now. Overspending is a mindset problem long before it ever becomes a financial one. People often think they need more money to fix their situation, but the truth is that without changing the beliefs and habits behind the spending, even a higher income will disappear the same way the old one did. Overspending grows from patterns, emotional triggers, impulsive decisions, boredom, comparison, stress, and the need for instant gratification. It is a reaction to feelings, rather than a reflection of values. When you buy something you don't need, it's rarely because the item was essential. It's because for a brief moment it filled a void, silenced a worry, or distracted you from something deeper. The problem is that the relief is temporary, but the financial consequences are permanent. You stop seeing money as a tool and start using it as a coping mechanism, and that is exactly where the cycle begins. Real financial change starts from the mind, not the wallet. You must reprogram your relationship with money, redefine what satisfaction means, and create a mindset strong enough to say no, even when your emotions say yes. Instead of spending for comfort, you learn to seek stability. Instead of buying to impress, you focus on progress. Instead of chasing the feeling of having more, you build the security of needing less. When you see money as a resource to protect rather than escape into, your decisions become intentional. You start noticing your triggers, pausing before purchases, and choosing the long-term reward over the short-lived thrill. The moment you change the way you think about money, you change the way you hold it. And once your mindset shifts, overspending loses its power because it no longer controls your emotions, your impulses, or your future. Temporary emotional comfort destroys long-term financial security because every time you spend to soothe a feeling, you are trading your future stability for a moment of relief. Most overspending doesn't happen because someone needs something. It happens because they are stressed, tired, lonely, overwhelmed, or trying to escape a pressure they don't want to face. Buying something gives a quick hit of excitement, a small spark of joy, and for a brief second, it feels like life is lighter. But that feeling fades faster than the payment clears, leaving you right where you were, only now, with less money, more guilt, and a habit that keeps getting stronger. Emotional spending is dangerous because it feels harmless in the moment. A small treat here, a comfort purchase there, a little indulgence after a rough day, and suddenly your savings disappear without you realizing where your money actually went. The pattern continues because your brain starts to associate buying with relief, making the habit even harder to break. What begins as a coping mechanism slowly becomes a cycle of financial self-sabotage. Long-term security doesn't grow from temporary comfort. It grows from consistency, discipline, and the ability to sit with your emotions without trying to numb them with spending. When you learn to handle stress without reaching for your wallet, you take the power back. You start replacing emotional impulses with conscious choices. You begin to understand that true comfort comes from stability, not from things. And every time you choose patience over impulse, you strengthen your future. The peace you feel from having savings, control, and direction lasts far longer than anything you could buy in a moment of emotion. Temporary comfort fades, but long-term security builds a foundation that protects your life, your goals, and your future. Saving is a sign of discipline, power, and self-control because it requires you to rise above your impulses and choose what truly matters over what feels good in the moment. Anyone can spend money the second it reaches their hands, but it takes strength to pause, to think, and to act with intention. Every time you save instead of spending without purpose, you prove to yourself that you are capable of making decisions based on values rather than emotions. Discipline is built in those small moments when you say no to instant gratification and yes to long-term stability. It is not about depriving yourself. It is about prioritizing yourself. When you choose saving, you are not losing anything. You are investing in a stronger version of you. You gain clarity, structure, and a sense of control that no impulsive purchase can replace. Saving money is also a form of personal power because it frees you from the traps that financial stress creates. When you have savings, you don't panic when problems come. You don't feel helpless when opportunities appear. You don't depend on anyone to rescue you. You are steady, confident, and grounded because you know you have built a safety net with your own hands. That is real power. Self-control grows the more you practice it. At first, resisting temptation feels difficult, but with time, every small act of discipline strengthens your mindset. You begin to take pride in your decisions. You notice how much calmer your life becomes. You feel less reactive, less pressured, and more secure. Saving turns into a habit, and the habit becomes a lifestyle. And when it becomes a lifestyle, you realize that the true reward isn't the money itself, it is the person you become in the process. You become someone who chooses purpose over impulse, someone who protects their future, someone who moves through life with confidence and control. Wealth is built by habits, not income level, because money only grows when the actions behind it are consistent, intentional, and disciplined. Many people believe that if they just earned a higher salary, their financial problems would disappear, but this is rarely true. Without the right habits, even a large income slips away through mindless spending, emotional purchases, and a lack of structure. Wealth does not come from what you make, it comes from what you keep, how you manage it, and the mindset you build around it. Someone with modest income but strong habits can create more stability than someone earning far more but living without discipline. When you understand this, you stop waiting for more money to start changing your financial life. You begin by changing your habits today. Good financial habits act like seeds. Small, consistent choices, saving a portion of your income, tracking where your money goes, setting boundaries, choosing value over impulse, grow into long-term security. These habits compound over time, building strength quietly, steadily, and powerfully. You start noticing patterns, understanding your triggers, and creating systems that protect your future instead of draining it. Wealth becomes less about luck and more about intention. The truth is, financial freedom doesn't happen through dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. It happens through the daily decisions most people overlook. It happens when you choose to delay gratification, when you avoid unnecessary debt, when you commit to learning about money instead of fearing it. When your habits are aligned with your goals, your income, no matter the size, begins to work for you instead of against you. And the most empowering part is that habits are fully within your control. You don't need permission, you don't need extreme resources, and you don't need a perfect plan. You just need consistency. When your habits are strong, your wealth grows naturally, quietly, and steadily, because the person you become through those habits is someone who knows how to build, protect, and grow their financial future. Every unnecessary purchase is a silent theft from your future, because each time you spend money on something that adds no real value to your life, you are taking resources away from the version of you that needs them the most. The future you, the one trying to build stability, security, and freedom, depends on the choices you make today. But impulsive buying slowly drains that future, one small decision at a time. You don't feel the impact immediately, because it rarely comes from one big mistake. It comes from the little things, the late-night online shopping, the fast food cravings, the upgrades you didn't truly need, the trend-driven purchases that lose their appeal in a week. Each one seems harmless, but together, they become a heavy weight pulling your future farther, away from you. Financial loss is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, slow, and almost invisible. Unnecessary spending steals more than money. It steals opportunity. It takes away the chance to invest, to save, to prepare, to grow. When you choose something temporary over something meaningful, you rob yourself of the possibilities that money could have created for you later. Maybe it could have become a safety net during a tough time, or capital for a business, or the down payment on a home, or the peace that comes from having an emergency fund. But because of small, impulsive choices, those possibilities slowly fade, leaving you frustrated, stressed, and unsure where your money went. The emotional cost is just as real. After an impulse purchase, there is a moment of guilt that quietly whispers that you could have made a better choice. Over time, that guilt becomes a pattern, a cycle where you feel stuck between wanting a better future and sabotaging it in the present. Breaking that cycle begins with awareness. You start paying attention to what triggers your spending. You begin asking yourself whether the purchase will matter tomorrow, next month, or next year. You develop the habit of pausing, thinking, and choosing intentionally instead of reacting. When you realize that every unnecessary expense delays your dreams, decision-making becomes clearer. You stop spending to feel good and start spending to move forward. You stop trading your future for the comfort of a moment, and slowly, you regain control. Every time you protect your money from an impulse, you are giving it back to your future. You are choosing growth, stability, and freedom. You are proving to yourself that your future matters more than your impulses, and that is how true financial transformation begins. Small daily sacrifices create long-term financial freedom, because true wealth is not built through sudden, dramatic changes. It is built through slow, steady, and intentional choices made every single day. People often underestimate the power of small actions, believing that only big sacrifices or massive income increases can transform their financial lives. But the reality is that the minor decisions you make consistently have far more impact over time than rare moments of extreme discipline. Every time you choose to save instead of spend, even if it's just a little, you are strengthening a habit that compounds and grows beyond what you can see in the moment. Daily sacrifices are powerful because they are sustainable. Choosing to make your own coffee instead of buying one, preparing meals at home instead of eating out, resisting the urge to upgrade a phone that still works, pausing before buying something non-essential. These may seem small, almost insignificant, but each one is a step toward a greater financial goal. It is not the size of the sacrifice that matters. It is the consistency. When these small actions become part of your routine, they create momentum, they build discipline, they shape your mindset, and over time, they form a foundation strong enough to carry significant financial growth. Long-term financial freedom is not about living with restrictions, but about making decisions that align with your values and your future. Daily sacrifices teach you how to distinguish between wants and needs, how to delay gratification, and how to prioritize your future self over your immediate desires. They help you break emotional spending patterns and give you the confidence that you are capable of controlling your financial destiny. These sacrifices also open doors to habits that support long-term stability, like tracking your money, building savings, paying off debt, and setting financial goals that excite you. Eventually, the small sacrifices compound into visible results. You start seeing your savings grow, your stress decrease, and your options expand. You feel more in control, more grounded, and more hopeful. What once felt like a sacrifice begins to feel like empowerment because you can clearly see how your daily discipline shapes your future. And that is the true magic of small sacrifices. They transform not only your financial situation but also your identity. You become someone who chooses intention over impulse, consistency over chaos, and long-term freedom over short-term comfort. And when you live this way every day, financial freedom becomes not a dream, but an inevitable outcome of your discipline and your choices. Treating saving money as a mission fueled by purpose and faith transforms the entire way you approach your financial life, because it gives your actions deeper meaning than simple restriction or discipline. When you see saving as a mission, it becomes something you commit to with your whole heart, not something you do only when it's convenient. A mission gives you focus. It gives you a reason to stay consistent. It gives you something bigger to believe in when motivation fades and temptation rises. Saving becomes less about denying yourself pleasures and more about protecting your future, preserving your peace, and honoring the responsibility you have to yourself and the people you care about. A mission is something you show up for, even when it's difficult, because you know the reward is far greater than the effort. Purpose adds power to every decision. When you know why you're saving, the how becomes easier. You stop spending emotionally because your purpose reminds you that every unnecessary purchase takes you further away from your goals. You stop chasing temporary satisfaction because you understand that your long-term vision matters more. Whether your purpose is building security, creating opportunities, breaking generational habits, supporting your family, or gaining freedom from stress, that purpose becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded when your impulses try to pull you off track. It strengthens your discipline without feeling like pressure because you are driven by something meaningful and personal. Faith is the element that carries you through the moments when you can't yet see the results. Financial transformation does not happen instantly. It happens quietly, gradually, and often without applause. There will be days when saving feels slow, when the progress feels invisible, when you question whether your efforts even matter. This is where faith comes in. Faith reminds you that every small act counts, that your discipline is building something even when you cannot see it, that your sacrifices are shaping a future that will eventually reward you in ways you may not fully understand today. Faith teaches patience, resilience, and trust. It teaches you to believe in the process and in your ability to rise above your old habits. When saving becomes a mission, you no longer compare yourself to others. You stop chasing trends. You stop spending to impress anyone. You start spending with intention because your mission gives you clarity. Every time you save, you feel proud instead of restricted. Every time you say no to something unnecessary, you feel stronger. Every time you move closer to your goal, your purpose deepens. This mission becomes part of who you are, shaping your mindset, your habits, and your future. Eventually, saving is no longer something you have to force. It becomes something you choose naturally. It becomes a lifestyle guided by purpose, supported by faith, and strengthened by discipline. And when you live with that mindset, money stops controlling you. You control it, you direct it, you honor it, and it begins to work for you instead of against you. That is the kind of mission that changes not only your finances, but your entire life. Your future self depends on the discipline you build today, because every choice you make becomes part of the foundation your life will stand on later. Most people live as if their future is something distant, something they will deal with one day. But the truth is that your future is being shaped right now in moments that feel small and insignificant. Every time you choose to save instead of spend, every time you control your impulses, every time you prioritize your long-term goals over temporary desires, you are building a life that your future self will benefit from in ways you cannot even imagine yet. Discipline is not just a habit, it is a form of self-respect. It is the ultimate way of saying, I care about the person I am becoming. The future version of you is relying on your strength today. That version of you wants to feel secure, free, and stable. They want to wake up without financial stress, without anxiety, without fear of unexpected problems. They want opportunities, options, and peace. But that future doesn't appear magically. It grows out of the discipline you show in the present. Every small act of restraint, every smart financial decision, every moment of clarity adds up. You may not see the results immediately, but your future self will feel them deeply. It's easy to think that small decisions don't matter, especially when the progress feels slow. But slow progress is still progress, and progress built consistently is what builds real freedom. You might think choosing not to buy something today won't change much, but over time it creates habits, and those habits create outcomes. You begin to weaken the emotional triggers that used to control you. You begin to trust yourself with money. You begin to feel proud of the discipline you're developing. Slowly, you shift from living in reaction to living with intention. Your future self carries the rewards of your current discipline, just as they will carry the consequences of your current impulses. Think about that for a moment. Every careless purchase, every moment of emotional spending, every time you act without thinking, you're placing the burden on the shoulders of the version of you who is trying to build a better life. But every time you choose discipline, you're giving that same version of yourself a gift. You're handing them strength instead of stress, stability instead of struggle, freedom instead of fear. Imagine that future version of you calmer, more confident, financially secure. Imagine them living a life where opportunities come more easily because you did the hard work now. Imagine them thanking you for the sacrifices you made, the temptations you resisted, the goals you protected. That is the power of discipline. It's not about restriction, it's about creation. It creates the life you want before you can see it. It carries you toward the future you dream of. And when you look back years from now, you won't remember the things you chose not to buy. You'll remember the life you were finally able to build because you chose discipline over impulse, purpose over comfort, and your future self over the moment. Remember, the journey from overspending to saving is not just about money. It is about reclaiming your power, your freedom, and your future. Every choice you make today, every dollar you protect, every moment of discipline shapes the life you will one day live. And when you commit to this path with purpose, faith, and consistency, you are not just building savings. You are building a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. A future that thanks you for the sacrifices you made, the control you claimed, and the vision you refused to compromise.